So we're going to be talking today on how to brief your executives on the threat landscape. So if that's not the talk you're looking for, well, stay here anyway because I want a full ring. So little introduction to myself. I'm currently employed at OC Tanner as a senior manager of information security. I've been there about 9 years. I am been married for 25 years. I'm a father of 3. This is my 3rd talk that I've given at SAINTCON. The other 2 are listed down there. I've also retired from the military back in 2020 after 24 years of service. The last 8 years of that, I led the defensive cyber operations team. If you'd like, you can contact me or find me on LinkedIn or look for me on my personal business website of debcybersecurity.com. And speaking of debcybersecurity.com, that's where I do some of my charitable work. I've been trying to go to some of these assisted living homes and VA centers and try and do some charity work for giving security awareness training out to those groups. So, briefing on the executive cyber briefing essentials. This is how you help communicate with your executives so that they can make informed business decisions. Otherwise, business may suffer. And why this matters. Today we have some volatile cyber threat, pretty much a volatile cyber threat climate, and executive awareness is critical. Executives are responsible for making strategic decisions that impact the entire organization, and without clear understanding of the threat landscapes, they may underestimate the risks and misallocate resources. This is a very important task it is a very important task translating technical threat data into business-related insights. Cybersecurity is no longer just an IT issue, but a boardroom concern that affects reputation, compliance, and operational continuity. By framing the conversation around business impact, security professionals such as ourselves can ensure that executive stakeholders are informed, engaged, and actively prepared to make decisions. So a couple of points here on the slideshow, go over some good points. The importance that executives have of awareness. Like I said, we are the translators of all the technical jargon, all the technical data that is thrown at us. We have to somehow translate to the executives. Cybersecurity is becoming a boardroom issue. 10, 15 years ago, boardrooms probably didn't even have a technical person on the board. You're seeing more and more now that a board has technical people on there. But we still need to engage our executives and educate them. The more and more that I'm in this job, I'm finding that our job is really a job of education, not only to our end users, but to the executives. And then we have return on mitigation. This is kind of a newer framework that is being used to really drive home the point of this. And return on mitigation enables leaders to prioritize security investments based on an expected value. It helps them communicate risk in business terms that will align with executive priorities. The other thing that risk on mitigation can help you do is really unlock the budget. If a board is worried about budget and they just think they don't want to play in what ifs, return on mitigation is a way that you can really explain to them so that they will realize why it is important to the business and get you that budget that you need. So the executive mindset. Executives prioritize risk, reputation, and revenue. They process information differently than technical teams, often preferring high-level summaries, visual representations, and actionable insights. It is our job to tailor cybersecurity briefings to align with executive priorities. We must keep in mind the importance of focusing on strategic outcome rather than technical details. Using business language and presenting the data in a format that supports decision-making is really going to help the board understand the decisions that they need to make. And without a good education, they will not be able to make a fully educated business decision. And in order to do this, this is how you gain and foster support with your executives in your boardroom. Because if you don't have them on board, then you're really going to be fighting an uphill battle. Some common pitfalls that you get into fail to resonate with some of these cybersecurity briefings fail to resonate with executives due to common pitfalls, such as excessive jargon. You don't want to sit there and use acronym after acronym with your executives. They will just glaze over and go to sleep. We have to, the jargon can really hinder effective communication. We need to avoid acronyms as much as possible. And if we ever catch ourselves using an acronym, it's okay. Just go ahead and be like, oh, I'm sorry, RDP is a threat with ransomware because, oh, I'm sorry, RDP is actually a remote desktop protocol that is used business-wide, but it can be, allowing ransomware attacks. So just catch yourself if you ever see yourself using too many acronyms. By recognizing and addressing these pitfalls, security professionals can improve the clarity and relevance of their briefing, ensuring that executives understand the risk and are equipped to respond appropriately. So it seems like in security, there's a framework for everything. And even in briefing your executives, there's a framework that we can use to do this. So I'm going to introduce you into the 3 C's briefing framework. The three C's models are clarity, context, and confidence. These provides a structured approach to briefing executives or stakeholders on cybersecurity threats. Clarity ensures that the complex threats are simplified and easily understood. Context is what's going to help you align. Context helps you align the threat information to those business priorities. Confidence involves presenting recommended actions, readiness, and metrics to show control and preparedness. By using this model, security professionals can deliver briefings that are informative, strategic, and accountable, fostering trust and engaging among the executive leaders. So clarity. Clarity is about simplifying complex cybersecurity threats so that executives can understand them without needing all the technical expertise. You can use techniques such as analogs, visuals, or plain language to convey information effectively. Clarity, you should avoid use of acronyms, like I said, and deep technical explanations. Don't get too far into the weed. The executives don't want to know what level of code is being used on the back end of a certain device. By focusing on clarity, security professionals can ensure their message is accessible and impactful. This enables the executives to grasp the significance of the threats and make informed decisions quickly. Next one is context. Context involves aligning the cybersecurity threats with the business priorities. To demonstrate the urgency, we need to frame these threats in an operational impact. Also, we could also include compliance risks and reputation damage. Context will help emphasize the importance of the real-world examples and scenarios that resonate with the executive audience. By providing context, security professionals can help executives understand what the effect of would have on the organizational goals, and thereby helping get this strategic alignment involved. And mainly, what the context is going to really help you do is shift the priority so that maybe sometimes they need to have more working hours on a certain thing, or again, unlock a budget so you can get a tool to help protect them. And then confidence is about demonstrating preparedness and controlled in the face of cybersecurity threats. A lot of times, when a threat comes up, the executives will be of one or two mindsets. Some of them will be calm and collected and just be like, okay, how are we going to get through this? The other ones might have their hair on fire and they're running around the room wondering what went wrong and who they can blame. So you have to be prepared for both of those. So you need to present actions and mitigation plans and readiness with metrics so that you can measure the success of these actions. Without the metrics, if you just go into this in a completely firefighting mode and don't have any metrics for the executives to measure how effective your actions are, then it's going to be hard to measure that and then potentially get any other actions further down the line out of the board. This also will help foster confidence in the board because you have a stronger posture across the organization. All right, practical tools and applications. Theory, technical jargon can most likely and will most likely go over the heads of your executives. A good way to get around this and to drive home your point is to use practical applications and tools that will help educate your audience and empower them to make that fully informed business decision. And this is where you really have to be quick on your feet because you don't know what you're going to have available. You might only have a whiteboard available when you're briefing your executives. You might have 2 months' notice to put together a slide deck for your briefings. You may only get 2 hours' notice because an event just happened and now you have to go in and tell your executives exactly what happened. So in real-world examples, let's say the executives just heard the news that a college that they all went to, or they're all alums, and a lot of them graduated from this particular college, and that college just got hit with ransomware. Okay, this happened the night or so before a board meeting, and you're the CISO, and so now you're going to get called in, and the board is going to want a full brief on not only ransomware, but what happened at this college and why it happened. And so this shows the importance of keeping up with the news and being prepared to deliver anything. This means you should probably have a good RSS feed coming into you, listen to some decent podcasts, or even check the news every night because you never know what's gonna happen and when your executives are gonna call you in to brief you on it. So in this hypothetical example, the CISO comes in with less than a day's notice and has to brief their executives on what happened at their college. Luckily, the CISO was prepared. He knows all about ransomware. He knows all about the college. He knows what the college is most likely going to do. Are they going to pay the ransom? Are they not going to pay the ransom? And the CISO used the 3C framework, the context, clarity, and confidence, to go in and brief his executive team about what happened. The success about this in this scenario is because you have a small window when the executives saw something that happened that really hit home to them, being the college that they had graduated from. This opened up another opportunity, and the board took the recommendation of the CISO to perform a ransomware tabletop exercise. The tabletop exercise was scheduled for the week later. This included not only the C-level personnel, but also every VP in the company. And a ransomware tabletop was held and had great engagement in that tabletop. And in this scenario, let's just say hypothetically, the week after the tabletop happened, a VP comes and reports to the CISO and says, hey, I was looking through my files in our shared department file, and I came across this file that said decrypt_instructions.txt. Should I be worried about that? And then of course the CISO takes him aside and says, yes, let's go show me where this is. Show me what's happening here. And, luckily this hypothetical situation, the ransomware failed to launch, but it did leave a trace with that text file on how to decrypt the ransomware, which was also going to tell them how to pay the ransom. So tools and templates that you can use. Effective briefings are supported by tools and templates that ensure consistency and clarity. You want to go in and be a consistent message to your board. You don't want to go in there and spout out fear or try and tell them that the business is going to go under unless we do X, Y, or Z. You always want to just go in with the facts and actionable items that the board can then make a decision on. Because it's not just the risk that the board has to make a decision on. They have all the other business items that they have to weigh in on to make that decision. You can use resources such as dashboards, reporting frameworks like the MITRE attack and NIST CSF. This encourages the use of reusable templates that streamline the process and maintain a professional standard. Because you're going to want to come across as professional as you possibly can to your board, so that they respect you and want to continue your relationship. By leveraging these tools, security professionals can enhance the quality and impact their communication with the executive stakeholders. So prepping and QA. I know this might look like the end of my slide. This isn't the QA for me. This is how you prep and get ready for the QA for your board, because that's always going to come up. This is another reason why you want to stay up on most recent items. You want to be prepared, because for anything that the board is going to ask. Because just like you have your news feed, every member of that board or that executive board has their own news feed, and they're all going to come at you at different angles with questions. So preparing for the executive questions is a critical part of a successful briefing. Being prepared for questions such as, are we exposed to this threat? And most of the times you have to answer that in a multifaceted way. When they ask, are we exposed to this threat? That's really two things, right? You might have internal data that could be exposed to that threat, but you could also have external data. Like if you have clients that have trusted you with their data, you have to look at it from both the external data and the internal data. And so be prepared to discuss both of those with the board. They might say, what is your risk level? If the board is asking, what's your risk level, you better have some kind of framework or some way to measure the risk. You just can't say, yeah, our risk is off the charts. This is definitely going to happen to us. If you can't go in and say that. You have to say, well, this has a score by professionals. You don't want to go in there while it says it has a CVE of 9. Guys, we have to do this. It's a CVE of 9. And just keep and wonder why you're getting blank stares. Nobody knows what a CVE of 9 is on the executive board. You have to let them know that this is a fairly new vulnerability and has been seen to be exploited in the wild, and how easily exploited that vulnerability could be in order to get them to understand. So again, don't just say it's CVE 9 and expect them all to give you money and let you run off and do whatever you want to do. Then they'll ask, well, what are we doing about it? And they just expect you to be able to go tell your CTO to stop everything, stop production, patch all the production systems, and get everything back up within a 30-minute window. You have to be able to explain to them what impact the mitigating or remediation steps would take in any of these events. Let's see. We have to provide tips for crafting concise and confident responses for handling the tough conversations. We have to be prepared for these questions, and we have to demonstrate expertise with these executives. And again, that's going to help build trust. That's, like I said, when we have to educate and translate to these executive members. You can't just go in and tell them that our Apache servers are running version X.21 and they need to be running version X.13. You know, they don't care about the versions numbers. They wouldn't even know if you're running, say, Oracle 11c when end-of-life support for Oracle 11c was 2 months ago. And you're now on Oracle 18a, and they just think, okay, well then just upgrade from 11c to 18a. Just do that in one big jump. And you'd have to then, again, explain to them and educate them on why you can't do that. Being aware of current events. The most likely and unexpected questions you might get is something from a news feed of one of these executives. If you're talking about a threat that is seen out there, like a new phishing campaign that is coming through, trying to get people to transfer payroll into other accounts. You might go into a briefing with an entire slide deck explaining how this phishing campaign works, and then you get stopped 5 minutes in, and they say, "Yeah, but what about this F5? Anyone seen this F5 vulnerability that's going on?" And then you have to completely shift gears and understand why they're wondering about F5 and if that's even in your environment. AI and enterprise risk management has been topics on many of these board conversations, because they want to bring together, for enterprise risk management, they want to bring together the CFO, the COO, the CEO, and they kind of like want to have their little board meeting where they can discuss and bring in the risk. Now, you notice I said CEO, CFO, and COO. There's no technical people listed in that. And so that's where you need to be the one to offer up the technical knowledge. So staying up to date on current news articles about AI is going to come up. They're going to wonder, will AI just fix all this for us, or is AI going to make this even worse for the company? So the key to responding to the types of these questions is not necessarily having all the answers, because you're not going to know what's going to be thrown at you, but just know that if you don't have the answer, say that. And again, foster that trust with your executives and your board members, so that they know that you're human as well. You don't know all the answers, but you'll get the answers for them. Realize that executives are relying on us as cybersecurity professionals to be their educators and to brief them and to brief them. And I know that oftentimes briefing in front of a large group of people that are VP or C-level people can be intimidating, but you have to realize that they are human beings just like you are. They are employees of a company just like you are, and they're just trying to make the best decision that they can for that company. When you close your briefings, you want to make sure that you have a call to action. And so you want to make sure that you are driving home the strategic actions that you put in place for everything, and you communicate with the board and come up with any kind of follow-up questions that you might have or recommended actions that you could have. You may even need to give the board two different paths. Because oftentimes, one, you have to explain the difference between remediation and mitigation, and then you have to explain each path to the board, where sometimes mitigation will be a little bit cheaper in the short run, but it will not fix the problem completely. Whereas remediation might take longer, but it will actually solve the problem. So these board members oftentimes do need visual tools and things to help them learn. I remember one time briefing the boards, and I literally was on a whiteboard drawing a picture of a cloud to represent the internet. And I drew a picture of a cookie with little chocolate chips on there to teach them what a cookie was and how websites had cookies and how someone could come along and steal your cookies using something called an evil jinx portal. And then I had to explain to them what an evil jinx portal was. But just know that briefing your executives can be stressful, but you can get through it as long as you come prepared and you have the state of mind knowing that you're all in this together to get through it as employees. So that went way faster than I thought it was, but like I said, it's the end of the day, so we get out 30 minutes earlier. Any questions for me? Okay. Oh, yes. I do not have the answer to that, but I will look at that up and see. But yeah, there is one book that I do like. It's the NLP, the Neuro Linguistic Programming. And that book doesn't really talk about executives per se, but it does help you learn how to communicate better with people from all walks of different lives. Good question. Yes.
Well, that's
Oh, yes. So the question was, what metrics would you bring to the board what was it again? To showcase the risk. So the metrics that you could bring to the board to showcase risk is like a number of vulnerabilities that the company has within its software stack. That could be a risk, right? A metric right there. Now, the good way to combine that risk is possibly with contractual language that you have. If you have contractual language with some of your bigger clients that says, we will fix all these vulnerabilities that are medium or high within 30 to 60 days, that's a business risk right there. Because if you ever get audited by those bigger companies and they come in and say, hey, I want to see all your vulnerabilities, and I want you to prove that they've been fixed within 30 to 60 days. That's where the compliance comes in. Like if you don't have that proof, then you can't get like maybe SOC 2 or ISO certified. And if you're not ISO certified or SOC 2 certified, then certain companies don't want to do business with you. The other risk that you could show is the number of employees that you have versus the rate of phishing simulations hopefully your company is doing. If your company isn't doing phishing simulations, please do so. But also, if you are and you know that your company has a 10% click rate, and you say, well, we have a vulnerable email system here, and if we get a phishing email that comes in and sent to 800 people, we have a 10% click rate. That means 80 times somebody is going to click on a phishing email. And that's 80 chances that malware or ransomware is going to get introduced into your system. So those kind of metrics. Good question. Yes.
I bet good success teaching executive content impact and like around risk. Have you ever used something like that, or did you?
It goes back to like just the pictures. They love that little chart with a 1, 2, 3, 4 on the top and then 1, 2, 3, 4 on the bottom, so that they can, put the likelihood is only a 1, but the risk is a 3. Okay, that's still a high. The likelihood is a 4 and the risk is a 4. That's critical. We have to take care of this right now. And I've seen that in policies and everything over and over again with the executives. So that is a great visualization, that little graph of likelihood and impact to help brief the executives. Yes.
What? Okay. Great. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, nice. That but he was died. Don't need but when not take clearly enough. You understand in that.
right. So the question was how to educate the board on how to unlock the budget, right? Because otherwise, if we don't bring enough metrics to the board to get them to fully understand that there is a risk there, they're not gonna move forward and allow us to buy the certain tool that we have. And that's where the return on mitigation is really important. And if you're not tracking that at all with incidents that either have occurred or that you've seen elsewhere, I would recommend starting to track return on mitigation. So if we have an EDR solution that found and stopped, it detected 100 items and blocked 100 items. Like, that's good return on mitigation. If you have an in-house SOC where you employ 10 FTEs in an in-house SOC that's 24/7, and the board is starting to say that's too expensive, you better have return on mitigation where you can tell the board, look, our SOC, yes, is expensive. It might be the most expensive item on the information security budget, but they have X number of thousands of alerts a month, 10,000 alerts a month, and the mean time to solving each alert is under 2 hours. Something like that. And then even look at some of those alerts, give some key alerts that were caught quickly, and take that to the board and maybe make a tabletop exercise out of that. Like, if this alert wasn't caught and this process was allowed to go through, then half of our system would have been ransomware, and we would have been paying $500,000. So it is a tough job to educate the board on why they need to spend the amount. I mean, there's an entire room full of vendors downstairs that want our money, and they want the board's money. And some of them are great and some of them are necessary. Some of them are very expensive. And it's very tough to educate the board on why we need to make that spend. And it seems like every year when budget season comes around, it seems like we have the biggest target on our back because we are a cost center. We're not bringing in money. Good question.
And you see, you work like that. Yes.
I have seen that in other places, and there are some vendors, don't remember the name of the vendor downstairs, so I'm not going to try and name them, but they actually offer that where they will come in and walk you through. They will spend 2 days with your departments and walk through certain risks that will then come up with a spreadsheet that you can then take to your board members and say, look, all these items in red are our risk. And according to the data that is out there on the marketplace, these risks translate into this amount of dollar that could be potentially lost. And then again, it goes back to that grid that they love with the impact and likelihood.
What's your management is audit secretary stuff or whatever process that are totally off target. What was it?
Okay, the question is, what if the board is stuck on their favorite software, on their, whatever? What if their son works at the company and they really like it? And this, the other thing with this, replaceability is really what is needed. How fast our systems and our this career path and everything in this scope evolves, we have to be able to replace and swap out things pretty quickly. Seems like every 3 years, everyone should be at least reevaluating tools and see if they can swap that. And that's why we have like the Gartner Magic Quadrant, right? To track all those things. See who's slipping, who's going. But in order to convince the board on why to slip, you're going to really need key metrics. You're going to need to see where they're slipping up. I personally did it with the number of support cases that we put in and the length of time that it took with a certain vendor to get any eyes on the support case. And then if you follow that down that rabbit hole of this vendor didn't respond to support cases, well, this means that we didn't have any visibility on these logs for X amount of days. And so you may need to widen your audience with the board if there is one particular member. Maybe try and get more of them in the room to have pressure to switch out. But yes, replaceability is important in this field. Good.
With AI. Need a lot. I come sure that women who take the skill, those jobs.
So the question was, with AI coming about, how do we make sure that we have validation and human in the loop kind of thing? I would, if I was presenting that to the board and I was standing in front of them, I would say July 19th, 2024. Anyone know why? What happened July 19th, 2024? A certain big security vendor blue screen just about every Windows server in the nation. I didn't say it. The crowd did, but I didn't say it. And if we were just to let AI take over, what's AI going to say? Is it be like, well, this code is done, push it on through. Even if that means that we have to have a master of AI, of somebody to check the AI to ensure that before it pushes code, we need it to go through that. So I would have metrics. If you can dig up any metrics on fault ratios of AI and how often the AI that they're looking at comes up with errors. And then you give them that again, the likelihood and impact. Hey, this thing has an error rate of 33%. We're trusting it with our production environment. That impact is pretty high. The likelihood is already at a 2 to 3. Do you really trust AI to just replace our full stack programmer? Hopefully not. Good questions. Going once, going twice. Okay. Thank you very much for attending.